We are going to get started now. So thanks everybody for joining me, and for the new members of APA Zones for joining me here on your first day of the APA training session. So very cool stuff. What we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be continuing on in our methodologies talk about the different methodologies and different things that I find important as we study the bars. Okay, so I know this is we're also going to be talking about APA Zones 4, but I know this is a blank chart here, and obviously we just have price moving back and forth on it. Okay, so I love looking at just the bars. I love looking at price action. It's very, very important. And once you can understand the bars, it just makes life better. You know? So we're going to start out with a basic trend line, and I'm sure most people already know this, and I'm sure a lot of you probably use this, but I find trend lines extremely powerful in my trade setup. So not only do we have like a trend line forming here from this high and this high all connected together, and it's a pretty straightforward type of concept. You can see the pivots here as they happen, and you can kind of measure this bad boy out. So the key to really capturing trend lines really well is as soon as you see like a lower high being put in here at this particular bar, I think it's important to know that we are looking not for this bounce as much as we are for this one right here. Okay, now a lot of times if we do show our zones, this is going to be the money bounce on a particular level. Okay, that will be our money bounce. So it's very easy for us to capture something like this as price is leaving the zone according to my methodologies and my practices. So it is possible to capture this bounce as the trend line is developing, but this third bounce, we don't know when this is going to happen. Okay, so you can kind of see what this looks like here at this point. And if you draw the trend line like you're supposed to, this thing came a little bit short of really where we wanted it to be, and this just happens to be a perfect example here on the ES market. Okay, now technically speaking, behind the scenes, what I like to do is I like to give this a little bit of leeway, just like with our zones. I mean, we're not giving support or resistance or supply and demand, depending on what time frame you're on, really a chance. We're giving it price a little bit of a leeway to respond to this level. And I'm sorry for the leaf blower in the background here. Hold on 1 minute. We are looking to give the trend line a little bit of leeway. So I like to calculate this in my head, and maybe this is part of the hidden style of trading, you know, like the experienced style of trading that comes into play. But we have the money bounce that we could have captured, and then we have the trend line bounce that if you take a basically kind of like a standard deviation around the trend line, maybe above and below, you know, so you basically have like a diagonal zone going along here. This is what this trend line would look like in the future. Okay, and you can kind of see how it forms. All right, so but obviously the trend line is the line that we just deleted just a couple minutes ago. Okay, so that's kind of how I view this stuff, and maybe a little bit of the hidden stuff that I consider inside of trading the trend line. Okay, now this is for trend line bounces. The other way that I like to use trend lines is let's say that we are approaching a downtrend, or we're approaching a trend day. What I will like to do is I use trend lines quite a bit. If you guys are in the APA pub with me, you guys will see me doing this all the time on my charts and demonstrating this thing out. But let's say that we have a little trend line to the upside here, and for whatever reason, let's just say that we are looking to the downside. We don't know any other context issues, and context doesn't matter as we're looking at just the pure idea of trend lines and getting into a downtrend, if you were. Okay, so as soon as I drew the little line from this point to this next little green bar's wick, obviously a retest of the low here. So as soon as price closes below this trend line that connects those 2 points, I think that that means something good is going to happen there as far as a position to the short side. Okay. The sad thing on this particular example is, you'd have a crazy big stop on ES. So that doesn't work out very well for us. So that's not a really great example, but this is the idea that we're going for. Okay. The other thing that I also like to do, and maybe this will be a little bit better example, see a low and then green bar, you just see a ton, of green bars in here. Okay. So the next thing to be watching for is on a trend line like this. You see where this red bar comes in here? This is a first red bar from this previous low down here. So technically I'd want to take it from this low up to whatever the lowest point is after this red line is right there. Okay, so that's what this looks like, and we finally get a close below right here. Now, to me, the important thing to consider here is, even though we've beaten the trend line at this point, every single candle pretty much has made a new high. Okay, all these candles after this red candle is formed, we've had a new high before we've had this thing kick into place. Okay, and it looks like we're retesting this area of consolidation over here on the right hand side. Okay, so because we've had a new high and we've not seen a failure to break the high at this point, you may be seeing a double dip, or we'll call it a double dip, meaning it looks like it's going to reverse, but it actually goes up just a little bit higher before the complete reversal happens, which is what happens in this case too. It's kind of like when zone bounces happen. So let's say, I'm just going to use something that I see here on our chart. So let's say that we see a doji inside of a zone right here, right? And dojis and zones, if you see a doji inside of a zone, a lot of times it's a real good place for a reversal to happen. But you need to make sure that the next green bars don't make new highs. Okay, so you really need to see another green bar and then a red bar engulf before you get into that position. And the reason being is because this ticked just a few ticks higher than this doji. Okay, and because it ticked just a few ticks higher, this is what I consider like a double dip. It went a little bit higher than what we saw in the exhaustion of this candle being inside of this zone up here, and for many people it may have ticked you out. You saw exhaustion inside of a zone and it went just a little bit higher and then reversed. Now, if you do get ticked out of this, you get your stop loss hit up here, are you going to want to re-entering as soon as this low is surpassed? That's a question that we have to answer to ourselves. But if this candle is still forming here on the 3 minute, and you see this low get surpassed, which is a good sign of a reversal, and then you see this line this candle's low getting surpassed as well, if I'm really looking for the short move and I see two green candles being surpassed and this zone lining up as such and everything like that, that's the maximum amount of risk. If I don't jump on here, I don't think it's worth jumping on, you know. And this is just personal style and personal like trading type of application here, but that's really what we're looking for. And obviously we could have a trend line that doesn't look very good for us that's down there, but if you're taking the break of this trend line that we drew earlier, like you have no profit target before you're retesting the low, okay? And I love to play a little scalp in here and then the retest of the low or the high, because for all practical purposes, maybe it found support here and bounced back up for a third or for a second retest of this zone. Obviously it didn't, but it's in the realm of possibilities. And I want to be done with my first target and hitting my second target when it's retesting that low. And that, again, this is just personal style, but this is my thinking about trend lines and trend line breaks and things of that nature. So I hope that makes sense, and kind of how that works. This isn't a market that I really trade, so you know, it's kind of open and new territory as to what this market is currently doing today. But that is my thinking and kind of how I go along with things. So now that we've seen that money bounce off this trend line up here at this point, this is what I call the money bounce off of a trend line, which is technically the third bounce on a trend line. And you can kind of see if we play the range around that trend line, we get exhaustion doji candle. We get a new high after the doji candle, but we do get the engulfing bars to the downside of the green bar that was just right there. We surpass its low, and then we get another red bar. So that feels like a third bounce, you know, and that feels like the area that you want to be getting in right around where this circle is actually drawn, okay, for the third bounce idea. All right, so I hope that makes sense here. Okay, so this is how I kind of approach the trendline thing, and right now, technically speaking, you know, we see how pretty this trend line goes, but I also feel like there's something new forming right here. We've broken the previous low just by a couple ticks. See the exhaustion on that wick right there, and failure to break the low on this candle. So we need some follow through to happen here, but this green candle is a new low from the previous red candle, okay? So the downtrend is still intact even on a green bar, in a green inside bar here. Okay, it hasn't beaten the low, so we'll see what happens. But it very easily could break down again. But if this high is surpassed, you know, look for the high of this red bar to come next. But I'm hoping that we get a break of this. Yep, there we go. That we get the break of the zone right there. Okay, so. And again, it looks like there's some type of trend line or something being formed here. You could also maybe draw it like something like this too. But that's kind of what I feel and how I see that particular setup happening there. Okay, so I hope that makes a little bit of more sense as to how we look at trend lines. And if we're trying to get into a downtrend, a lot of times the easiest thing to do is just to draw this type of line and look for a good close below it, and then jump into the downtrend as a little scalp and a retest of the previous low, you know, and then you can jump into a downtrend that way. So CL a lot of times does these micro channels, so all of this could be very, very steep instead of it being very, very broad. CL can make them move really, really quick and very, very powerful, so you have to be really quick on drawing this trend line in place so that when you see that close below the trend line, you can jump in very, very quickly. Okay, ES has done a good job of having more of a general trend to the downside. So it's kind of how I see things today. And we are really soaring here. All right. So let's get into some of this other stuff here as far as the new APA zones for. We spent some time talking about the. Does anybody else need or would like any explanation on the trendline ideas? I want to make sure that this is beneficial. I know that we have a varying degree of experience here in the room today, so I just want to make sure that I'm answering any questions that are coming on, or if things are not clear on how I'm drawing this stuff. Maybe a couple more examples of trendline breaks and following the trend would be in play. Here's another trend line. I'm looking for the red candle. Okay, we have a new low. Green candles, red candle. The lowest point after the red candle is formed is where I want to draw the trend line. So close below that is right there. You want to put, in my methodology of this trend line break, I want to put my stop just above that point and look for a retest of the low and possible breakage of the low if this thing is really going to carry on. You know, make sure you have decent risk to reward on it. I mean, it can be slightly inverted. As long as you're running multiple contracts, it's okay to have a slightly inverted first target on a trendline break. But we really want to make sure that our first target is that low that we're looking to break, because I always like to pay for my trade with my first target. So even if this thing doesn't break at this time, you've still paid for your trade, and you know, life is good, and you can get rid of all that mental stuff of managing the trade, and you can be more objective. That first target is so key for me. It just helps relieve all stress, and it makes trading a whole lot easier, you know, because you're only sweating things for the first, you know, maybe couple minutes at max, and then it's stress-free. You can objectively look at the market because no matter what, you paid for your trade, and life is grand. So that's kind of how I look at it. Oh, here's a good idea of a trend line. Here, I would draw the trend line like so, something like this. If you're in a real steep type of deal, you could look for a trend line maybe somewhere in there. So that close could maybe get you in just below that, and then stop goes above that high right there. First target's down there, and obviously you got that one. But that's the kind of the idea. And this is a real quick, like this is one of those micro trends. So it is hard to jump into that and to make that decision, but you don't have much space to go with on this thing. Like there's not a whole lot of space in between these two areas here. So if you're going to be jumping onto a downtrend that you think is really, really strong and powerful, just looking at the way this thing came down here, you got to draw a quick trend line and say that, hey, this is failing to break this high up here. I need space just so that I can get my first target off and pay for my trade as quickly as possible, because this is possibly a micro trend, you know. So that's what I would be looking for. But the thing that helps me say that this is the high is the fact that you have a green candle high up here, and then you have a red candle new low on this candle, as well as the close is below the low of this green candle here. So this candle really sells the idea and tells me in price action style that this candle was the high, and we could be looking to join the trend to the downside as soon as this red candle forms. Okay, so I hope that helps with that idea and jumping into a micro trend. So I think that's well, here's another example. just going to draw a few different examples here. So kind of see the trend line looking something like this. So it looks like we're kind of getting some dojis that are stuttering. Obviously a lot of consolidation right up here. And I kind of feel like it's consolidation pulling off of previous consolidation, so it's kind of stair-stepping down. So we need to break this consolidation at that 1804.50 level that's been going on there, and then once you break it, it's once you break this thing that's been pulling off right there, then I feel like it kind of confirms the downtrend, and just one tick below that, I'd probably hit market on there, so that way I can draw in my that way I can manage the stop at like one tick, and actually whatever, maybe a point and a half or whatever, and you still have profit target to go before you hit that area of consolidation down there, and pay for your trade, all within 1 bar or something, and then play the next one down here at 2 points and your third one to make it look good. So that would be the idea behind this trendline break. But obviously, whatever the 1804.50, like that's, hopefully everybody can really feel the resistance or feel the support at that level for whatever reason. That was major support, and kind of the deciding factor below that support level, which kind of confirmed where we drew the trend line to as well. So that's how trend lines help me, and hope that this has been helpful. I'm going to get into the new updates into the APA Zones 4 release that I hope to be coming out with here this next week. Basically, well, it's an upgrade. Okay. The APA 4 is an upgrade. There's been some major upgrades to it, and we'll go through all those now. Probably one of the coolest things is, and a lot of these upgrades have just been asked for by the community. Okay, so here to make trading in zones as user friendly as possible. So what we've done is let me go over here into the indicator settings just so that you guys can follow along with me. You only see one zone pop up here. Okay, so you don't see like our whole range of different zones at different price levels pop up. There's just one because that's the only active supply zone on the, well, I shouldn't say the only active, but that is the active supply zone that's current. So there's this this is actually not fully implemented yet, just because I'm having some drawing issues with things, but showing only the current zone supply and demand, or support and resistance depending on your time frame. That is an option now. I also have it as an option in the drawdown, but I think I need to restart NinjaTrader for it to correctly work. So show the last zone only is an option. Because I'm having some drawing issues with it, I'm probably not going to release it out, but I would love to hear your guys' input on if you want me to release it out, even though it's a little buggy. I kind of want to get rid of the bugs before I release something, so that's just my personal way and personal belief system coming in there. So it's something that I'd love to hear your views on, if you really think that's something that you would like to have, even though it's a little buggy right now. I do notice that when we do this, it does take up more processing time. And speaking of processing time, if we hit that to false, and then we hit OK, you can see, wow, you can see all the zones pop up there. And the big one of the big things in the new APA Zones 4 is our ability to speed up the zones. We've optimized all the equations to a very high degree, so basically we can load in a whole lot more data very, very quickly. So 3 minutes, we're going to load in 60 days, and let's count. 1001, 1002. So it took about 2 seconds to load in 60 days on the 30 of 3-minute data. Okay, and it plots all the normal zones as well as all the dead zones. All that good stuff's there. Okay, so massive speed increases. I do have a pretty fast machine, just FYI, so it may run a little faster, a little slower, depending on your machine. My machine's about 2 years old, so but that did it pretty darn quick. Okay. Yes, Robert, we can do that. Okay, so the next big thing is for just for everybody's information, the zone types have changed a little bit as well. All right, so we are still sitting under the intelligent setting right now, but you will notice that these zones are more dynamic now. If we turn them off, you'll see that we're looking. We've changed the equation around just to give us a better idea of the consolidation of the zones. Okay, so as we turn them back on, the old zone logic. If we turn on the APA 3, you notice that there's the old zone logic there. The consolidation of this zone was like this, okay? And if you like the old zone logic, it's still there. This was the old intelligent logic of APA 3. So a lot smaller zone, but I kind of like the bigger zones in general, to be real honest with you guys. So, and then if we turn it to intelligence, the current intelligent, you can see how much bigger both of those zones were. Okay, so that's another big change for everything. So I hope that that makes sense. And over here in TradeStation, we have done the exact same thing. Ooh. Actually, let me bring up my TradeStation platform here. There have been some major updates to TradeStation, so apparently they have a new update even today, so I need to go look from the programming side of things and see what they changed. In TradeStation they have all this new app stuff going on, which it's cool. They've really tried to mimic NinjaTrader's backend, but so far it's well, it is what it is. One thing that I absolutely love about TradeStation is the actual chart, the way and the different indicators that you do have in the TradeStation charting. I think that's absolutely wonderful. Back-end stuff, it's still a little clunky for me to do everything that I want to do. So under the indicators, let's go into here. Same type of deal. We do have the ability now to draw in full zones. So it could be a solid object in and of itself, so it's all colored in. I'm not so sure I'm really liking that so much as of right now, but we are making the, you have to go to Format Analysis Technique and Format, and then where it says, oh, where is that at? Oh, I'm sorry, I opened up the wrong one. Let me see if I can open up the right zone thing here. Alright, well, it looks like my thing is not verified right now, so I'm probably not going to be able to show you this, but we do have a couple different settings. here on the APA Zones 4 deal. I've actually been working on this in the past couple days, so it's not there yet, but I hope to get it done here in the next couple days so that we can release all of APA Zones 4 together. For right now, I'm going to keep the zones on TradeStation with these lines that represent the color of how many times prices retested each one of them. And the TradeStation version, you will be getting the ability to choose in between the different zone types. They will all be true and false statements that you can enable or disable. So there will be the Zone 3 type as well as the new intelligent type will also be inside of there. And I may give out confirmation signals of when price action has confirmed a zone touch off of the zone. And I'm sorry, but I'm just going to share this with everybody because I think this is just super duper cool. Okay, now just to show you like just the normal indicators that you have in TradeStation, this little breakout of X bars, these two little things right here, extremely powerful if you know how to use them. And it really matches with what I look at already. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And I changed the length down to like 2 or 3. So hit OK there. And let's do 2 here. Okay. So actually, did I do 2 on both of them? Is that right? Yeah, I did 2 on both of them. Okay. So if we zoom into the TradeStation view, I just think this is super cool. Okay. So I know some of you guys are familiar with APA Methodologies that's being released, but TradeStation has something that I think is also very valid. In seeing the breakouts of the past 2 bars, we know that this red candle right here was a breakout of the past 2 bars, and when we see that little dot plot and price touching the zone, I have no problem taking it short after this candle plots, which would be on this little white candle right here. I don't know why it's painted white, but I know TradeStation does some processing with their bar color, so I'm not sure what that means. But then you just put your stop just a tick above up there. And I just think that's absolutely wonderful because it's confirmed the zone in a price action style, and it's a really good way to go, So that's where the APA methodologies would plot for a short signal as well, or confirming of the zone, I should say. I shouldn't say signal. It's just a confirmation of a zone touch is all we're doing on it. Okay, so that's what we're looking at there. So very, very cool stuff. And that again, that little indicator, in case you guys were curious about it, was the breakout of X bars high and X bars low. So if you set it to 2, you get nice price action confirmation of when that happens. And I think you can even put a little alert on it too. So, or there is a little alert on it. So it's just really, really phenomenal. So that's great stuff right there. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to get back into the NinjaTrader side of things just because it's my first love, I guess you could say. Going into some of the other settings as far as APA Zones 4 is we covered the zone type as well as the processing, the faster processing of the zones. The other thing that you'll see is now available is here in the Market Analyzer. We should be able to push all this stuff out to the Market Analyzer. And if you guys are not familiar with the Market Analyzer, let me Add a couple different markets here. So it allows you to look at multiple instruments all at one time, and then we can go into columns and indicators. And then here in the indicator, you select the APA zones. Okay. Now, and then you can plot the active top of the demand zone or bottom and active supply zone top or bottom. Okay. So you can plot all of those. Technically speaking, we would want to plot the top of the demand zone to see when that interaction of the demand zone happens. Don't forget to put it to whatever time frame you're really wanting to watch here, and put all the conditions and alerts in there and yada yada yada, and then we should be getting some plots here hopefully. Well, they're all coming out 0, so that's kind of interesting. But I do know that it's working because right now I haven't right here on my output window I do have, well, that's interesting. Well, it was working earlier. Apparently we're getting some error message now, but from this over here, from another, from the CL chart that I have running, I can see where my active supply zone is and active demand zone is on every single bar, if it is there. So, but for whatever reason, it's not applying it to the different time frame of that zone. So I may be overloading this database and it's destroying it. Going to have to do a little bit more work there, but technically it is available. So I'll check into that stuff too before I release it to try to get that to work. But hopefully that'll help out a lot. Also, that kind of brings me over to APA Methodologies, because the strategy or the market analyzer is really cool for watching like a lot of stocks or ETFs, or if you're swing trading or something like that. So in the APA Methodologies, what we're doing here is we're looking to plot the confirmation off of zone touches. Okay, so let's go ahead and apply that. As such, oh, I almost forgot to tell you guys about something else. Another user requested application for the zones was a minimum zone width. So basically, zones have to be more than 2 ticks big, or 4 ticks big, or 10 ticks big for them to plot. If they are not that big, then it doesn't plot on our chart. Okay. Again, it was just a user added type of feature, but somebody wanted it, so there it is now. Okay, so that's right next to the strength setting under parameters. And go ahead and hit close on this bad boy. And you can see with the APA methods, the APA methods show up here. You have your little drop-down panel of all those different choices. But every time we see a price action confirmation of a zone, we see a little plot here, as well as a line being drawn at the open, which this just follows my rules, my personal rules, of the open of the previous bar. Okay, so short arrow there, and then you can also see a little orange line. This just represents where the zone's bottom is, or the zone's top is. Let me turn off the zones here. So you can see where the zone plot is. That's where the high of the zone is. That's where the line came in, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's kind of how that works. In the pub room, we've actually been watching this stuff on different range charts, and it looks really cool, I gotta admit. And the reason why I put it on a range chart was, well, there's a couple different reasons. But the range chart limits the number of bars that go past before you get a signal. So we know as soon as we get a signal, or excuse me, confirmation of the zone with price action in the zone, right here at the first 15 minutes, this is also inside of an APA time that we're looking at. If we're on a 2 range, we know that the 2 bar engulf, it'll take us about, a point to like a point and a half to get above the swing that actually created that bounce. Okay, because the signal doesn't happen until the end of this bar plotting here, and that's what's new about the APA methodologies, is it does plot this little thing here. I'm still looking into some legality issues with all of this stuff, but that's the idea behind it. It may change from an arrow to a diamond, and there may not be a line in final release form, but we're checking it into that as we speak. So it does, by playing it on a range bar, it does give us a more of a fixed stop loss type of application, whereas if we're on a minute base, your stop could be absolutely huge, but on a range, you're getting fixed stops, okay, or more equalized and fixed stops than you are on a tick or minute-based time frame. Okay, so you can kind of see some of the little confirmation arrows that we've had plotted throughout the day. Again, I love to take them at the APA time. So there's the first opening range, 5-minute opening range there, as well as the first 15 minutes, top of the hour, bottom of the hour, so on and so forth. And you can kind of see how all that stuff works out there. Okay, so that's pretty much what we're looking at. We also have this really cool tool that now plots where the top or the bottom of the range bar could be. So that may also be included in the APA package there. Okay, so just so that we know, like if you are bouncing off of a zone here, we can tell that this range bar, the second bar, is going to engulf the previous red bar by a tick, and even before this 2 range bar is actually done plotting, so you could use a limit order to get into some of these trades. Whereas if you don't, then it'd be all market, which is prone to slippage and all that good stuff. So I hope that that helps with some of the new advances that we're coming out with. APA Methodologies is obviously the extreme package, the most advanced package sitting on the website right now. We are going to come out with a there's also APA Methodologies MTF. So not only does it plot these confirmations of the zones, but it also plots a breakout signal. Do you guys want to get into all this APA methodology stuff today or not? I'm just going to do a quick poll here. Yes? Okay. All right. So basically the APA methodologies MTF goes to capture another type of setup. All right, and remember how we're talking last Thursday about the breakout setup? Let me see if I can't find the screenshot here. There we go. So the MTF captures not only the pullback setup, of price action touching the zone and then leaving the zone with price action confirmation down here, and you can take your targets wherever you want to. But the breakout setup happens from zone creation a lot of times, where a zone is created, and if we see the slightest pullback or a red bar be plotted, we plot a line 1 tick higher than that high. Okay, so when price comes back to it, if it opens above it or however you decide you want to do that, you can play a breakout of that. So maybe the pullback didn't happen to the zone, or maybe the pullback just wasn't quite there, it still gives you a way to get into a possible long position in this thing. And if price doesn't hit this and you're on a small time frame, and price goes through it, and this was just a support area or a resistance area for a short period of time, and price goes right through it, you just have a line plot right there. It's no big deal, but that was a possible breakout type of application. So that is what that means. All right. So if we take this and we go to indicators, these right now are both indicators. I'm going to be working on a strategy as well. And I'm just going to take off everything except for the APA methodologies. And we're going to plot it from what range bar we are looking at right now, just so that you guys can follow along with me. And I'm going to put the strength to pretty quick, just because let's say we're in one of those microtrends and I just want to get in. Like, tell me how fast I can get into something, because I know that we're in a microtrend and I totally missed the bounce and I just want to get in super duper quick. Okay, so we have a 2-range zone that's just formed down there, and blue lines plotted 1 tick above this previous high. So maybe if we get an open above this point, we can get in and run it up to the next zone. That would be the idea. All right. Apparently we had a zone form over here. As such, the low was put into place after this bar. It touched the zone, but it didn't surpass this little purple line that was plotted. Okay, so no trade goes on there because price didn't really surpass that breakout line. Okay, or no setup is there because it didn't surpass that. So that's the application of this. I am looking to build a strategy taking multiple time frames of the pullback setup all into confluence with one another. So what that looks like is, well, it's best to draw it out just because it's a little complicated. Okay, but it makes perfect logical sense. All right. So because you guys are all users of APA zones, I hope that this is a very quick explanation. So let's say we have a supply zone up here. Okay, let's say this is a big time frame supply zone. All right, we'll say that's a 60-minute, and inside the 60-minute, we have a smaller 15-minute zone right there, and maybe a 15-minute zone right here. Okay, so one at the top, one at the bottom. And maybe we have another 5-minute zone that's right here, and a 5-minute zone right here, and a really small one right in the middle. Okay, and we're going to start building into the ideas of fractal harmonics of the market and yada 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 right now. Okay, so this could be getting a little complicated. But the idea behind it is to use 4 different time frames, and let's say price comes in and touches the bottom of this zone right here. Okay. Hold on one second. And let's do my little drawing tool here. Price comes in. Let's say it touches 4 different time frames of confluence right here on the edge of the big 60-minute level. Okay, and we get a touch of the 5 minutes, and it rolls over. And your base time frame, let's say, is the 5-minute time frame. So as soon as it sees all that confluence of all those different zones being touched right here, and you've gotten your 5-minute double engulfing bar or single engulfing bar, it's going to tell you that you have a counter trend set up to the short side that's confirmed with price action, or PA. Okay, let me change the text there. All right, so you've confirmed all that. You're bouncing off of your current time frame or your base time frame. All that stuff's confirmed, and it's up to you whether or not you take that short trade or not. But we're playing with a confirmation of 4 or 5 different time frames, and basically what that looks like is inside the code I have you get to rank your zones when you put the strategy on here. So you have a zone rank, okay, and we do highest time frame, higher time frame, base, lower, and lowest time frame. Okay, so all this is one big setting, and you actually decide what to do with each one of these time frames. So there's 5 different time frames that you can use, and based on those 5 different time frames, when all these criteria match up, it'll say counter trend trade short. Okay, now what if price comes out of the zone and it's coming along and its merry old little way? Price comes on down here, and a new zone forms somewhere here in the middle. Okay, let me draw a real rectangle. New zone forms down here. Okay, and price is still coming down in its merry little way, and then it decides to come up and retest this one. Okay, so your base time frame, it's a bounce, confirms with this right here, and this is a signal that we're actually being plotted right now. And I hope to have all this logic done here by the first of the year, but we'll see. And so this is going to be trend following off of base time frame. Okay, that's what's going to plot there. And the reason why we would say all that is because, well, that's exactly what's happened. We don't. The software is actually not smart enough to know that this has happened, but we only see maybe 1 or 2 time frames. Maybe the last 3 of these. So maybe higher, base, lower, all have a zone right there, and you have price confirmation off of your base time frame. So we're going to give you a trend following base time frame entry with price action. Does that make sense? Well, hopefully so, but that's what we're looking for. Okay. Now the other tool, or the other idea that's also going to play, you remember that breakout idea? So we can also do the base time frame, or actually I'm going to do the lowest time frame here, just because that's what's going to be put in place. We're going to put a little line down here, so if the low is broken, or whatever the lowest time frame's low is broken, you're going to see a breakout signal that's plotted, so that you could also join the trend if a breakout type of trade is plotted off of the lowest time frame. That's where all the breakout trades and the breakout lines will be plotted from, is our lowest time frame that's selected down here. Okay, so it's a whole strategy. Just because of the way NinjaTrader's developed, I have to put it into a strategy to make all this stuff work correctly and to see each other. Still having some technical issues with some of this logic, but that's the idea, and I hope to be done with it really soon. So hopefully that was all as clear as mud, but it gives you an idea of where I'm going to be taking things. So the other thing that I'm also looking to incorporate into this is also the idea of, let's say, the APA time. The APA time. So if this all happens within the APA time zones, that gives it more credence, you know, and then this one would happen maybe within the APA time too, so maybe a half hour apart from each other, which tends to happen quite frequently. We have a new high and then a lower high, you know. Let's go back to the charts and we'll see that, you know, like it's nothing new. Let's see if we actually do have that setup already happening here on ES. Just out of curiosity. Okay, so this was 6 o'clock. This high was 6 o'clock. Oh, not quite. I was thinking maybe this was 6:30 Pacific time, but same idea. The exact same idea. And technically, this is an APA time, as we were seeing on the other chart that we're looking at. First 15 minutes of the market, we draw a special APA time for the first 15 minutes. So that actually worked out really well to confirm that that time as well. So just something interesting. I hope this all makes sense. Are there any questions or any comments? We'd love to get some feedback on showing the current zone only on the APA time or on the APA zones. If you guys want to see that released right away or not, I don't know how important it is. It was requested, so it will be put in place. It may take me a little bit longer just because I'm having some issues there. Yeah. All right. Well, not seeing a whole lot of questions, but hope everybody has a good Christmas. We are not going to be having the training next week. I think it actually falls, if I'm not mistaken, on like the 26th, which is the day after Christmas. So we're going to take a little holiday break there too. But we will catch you on the 2nd of January. Okay? Oh, I'm sorry. That's not next week. The 19th is next week. So, yes, we will have it next week, but we won't have it on the 26th. So we're going to take a little Christmas break as far as the training stuff goes. But hope that all this stuff makes sense, and we will catch everybody next time. So thanks, everybody, for joining me, and take